Welcome to the Neckbeard experience. Yeah, it's time for another round of neckbeards. We've got neckbeard vampires to college creeps and a neckbeard of the full-on nerd variety. So without further ado, let's go. This happened back when I was in high school. We had a group of neckbeard or legbeards. They called themselves the Vampire Pack. I don't mean that they dressed up, decked out in the tackiest Hot Topics ensemble. They full on tried to convince people that they were real life vampires, up to the point they were hissing at people when they got mad at them. For a group that bragged about how different they were among the flock of sheeps, they looked like they came from the same cookie cutter, patchy beard, unwashed hair, trench coats, fedoras, and those ugly baggy trip pants, you know, with all the chains, and a single female neckbeard, dressed just like them. All of them claimed, "We've abandoned our mortal names," and they insisted on being called their edgy names that they gave themselves, like Chaos, Destruction, and my favorite, Shadowvein. They would legit even argue with the teachers, who tried to call them by their real name. Whenever they were called out for being able to stand in the direct sunlight, or show up in pictures, or some dumb crap like that, they would say something like, "That's anti-vampire propaganda pushed by the church in Hollywood." The worst was how disruptive they were in class. They would answer every question with the same goofy, dark answer that had nothing to do with the question, and it sounded like it came from Gerard Leto's junior high school poetry. It was pretty bad. At one point, the female neckbeard decided that she had a crush on me, and she wasn't going to take no for an answer. I'm talking about going as far as showing up at my house and sitting on my porch, waiting for me to come outside, and leaving little creepy deviant fantasy love letters in my locker. You want to know how I finally got rid of her? Well, I decided to play their game, and I made up some elaborate lie about coming from a long line of vampire hunters. I was just trying to be a smartass. I figured that she'd realize I was mocking her, but she was so deeply into her delusion that she acted like it was real. She even handed me a sad note the next day about how crushed she was that destiny forced us apart. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have the tiniest bullying streak in high school, but I couldn't help myself around these sort of people. I hung out with the actual punk, goth kids, so you can imagine how many of my female friends got harassed by them. I once brought a spray bottle to school that was filled with holy water that I got from the local church, and I went around lightly spritzing them, since it was likely the only shower they had in the week, only to be met with the previously mentioned hissing. My favorite interaction was the time when I went to class early, and I left a crucifix and garlic on one of their desks. When they waddled up and saw it there, they got furious, and they instantly screamed at the teacher about it. The teacher dragged us outside, and the interaction went like this.
OP, what's going on? Vamp says you're harassing them.
Yeah, you're harassing my beliefs.
Now, OP, you know we don't tolerate that kind of thing here.
What? That he believes he's a vampire?
Come on, OP, he doesn't
Believe? No! I am a vampire! The teacher just stopped dead in her tracks. She had an exhausted look on her face. She looked at the fat vamp for about a minute, looked at me, then looked at him again, before going,
You know what? Just keep separated from each other.
Eventually that kid got expelled by writing a big revenge manifesto on his MySpace page with a bunch of kids' names on it, including yours truly. I discovered that a lot of people are sharing their neckbeard stories, either through Reddit or YouTube. So this has been on my mind again lately. I decided to commit my own memory to writing. I'll try to keep this concise, and not too long. But you have to understand, I got to know these people for years, so I might not be able to keep it all in one go. For context, the main story occurs throughout the duration of my college experience. I was around one neckbeard, and one pseudo-neckbeard, who were friends in college. I guess we can call them the caterpillar and the worm. A little about myself. As I was saying before, I was a sophomore in college. staying in an apartment a short walking distance from the campus. The apartments in the area are co-ed, since they aren't owned by the campus themselves. They're all set up for students, or on-campus families that would rather not brave the cramped horror of dorms. I had a roommate I trusted all throughout freshman year. He was polite, he minded his own business, he paid his bills on time, so when he had to move out for an emergency return home, I trusted his recommendation. I was a little panicked. I wondered if he would find someone who would half the bills, just in time to renew the contract. My old roomie told me not to worry about it. He had an old friend of his that he knew needed somewhere to stay on campus. I was informed that this fellow was studying in the same area as me, and that he was just as nice, and he wasn't a creep, which helps out a lot since I'm a girl. The new roomie, he's the one I call Caterpillar. That was my immediate thought, because once I met him, he looked just like the chubby-cheeked one from the Bugs Life movie. I mean this in an endearing way. Caterpillar was more like a pseudo-Neckbeard. I was very skeptical of him, even nervous. I was thinking to myself,
Oh God, what have I agreed to?
he did look the part. He was a really husky guy, tall, had kind of a whack taste in shoes, long, always wet-looking hair, something on his chin that struggled to be facial hair. I could tell that he was at least into video games because he had a Legend of Zelda shirt on and was kind of stretched out over his gut. There was no fedora and no nasty smell. He just had a pair of old, fogged, and scratched glasses that perched on his nose. He also had a lot of old wrinkled band-aids on his chunky fingers. I told him my name. Then he offered me a really awkward handshake. Despite my skepticism of him, Caterpillar did radiate a sort of laid-back, reserved energy. He kept his hands in his pockets as I showed him where things were in the apartment. He would offer me a cool, and occasionally, okay, or an acknowledging nod as I directed him through the kitchen, to the living room, to my own closed bedroom door, and to where his own room was. In general, he didn't have much to say besides this. He would thank me for my assistance, and also for allowing him to stay. The move-in was uneventful, but I could say by the boxes, he was absolutely a video game fan. Now, I love anime and games, so I further tested his demeanor. I prodded him and questioned him, wanted to know if he was a know-it-all, and of course he was. But again, not in a super neckbeardy way. It's more like the engine that won't stop once you got it going. Someone who was so quiet just lit up when I told him that I recognized some of the Sega and Nintendo memorabilia. This dude's information dump was like a dump truck at a landfill. He went on and on. He would carry on excitably across the apartment even though I left him alone. I could see how he and my old roommate could have been friends, so I actually relaxed. He was just a nerd, that's all. So after a few days, he settled in. Just like my old roommate, if I wasn't sitting out in the main living area, Caterpillar didn't bother me. Even if I could tell that he really wanted to. He was a closed-door sort of person, just like myself. And he was aware of the concept of personal space. Things remained comfortable, of course, until they didn't. The stress of college can do a lot of things to people. I myself suffer from pre- and post-midterms messy room, and that's probably double for an artist. But for Caterpillar, this resulted in some irritating behavior. He didn't stink before, but he stunk up the apartment, and he neglected to shower. The funk was strong as close to his room, but his tendrils slithered throughout the hall and curled around the corner, attempting to conquer my room and rule with an iron fist. Now, I'm passive-aggressive. I didn't outright tell him that he stank, or that he needed to wash his clothes, or that he really needed to do something about his dishes. Instead, I would leave his dishes by his door, or spray Febreze on a rare occasion that the dark threshold of his beard layer was left ajar. I was really angry with him, because I just could not stand living in stank. But after the midterms were over, and we could have spring break, he actually did draw up some courage and apologize to me, his hand scratching the back of his head, shuffling nervously, as if he was afraid that I was going to yell at him or curse him out. He said something like, I have trouble multitasking sometimes, and when there's just so much to do. I think I get depressed and my energy just goes away. I won't let it happen again. I hate for you to kick me out. Well, I didn't know what to say to that. I sort of felt bad because I did consider doing that. He had to pull himself together. hygiene, and keeping the living area clean was very basic and a bare minimum. I try to understand whatever he was going through and what he was dealing with, so I gave him another chance. I even offered to motivate him and to look after him when he got stressed out. I actually got around to helping him clean non-super personal stuff up to his room for spring break. Since that year's onslaught of midterms were over, I cannot begin to explain the magnitude of the hot mess that room was. But he and I sort of bonded over things, filling up trash bags. It was mostly a chat about video game stuff, since that's what he was decorating the majority of his room. He told me thanks, that he would have been overwhelmed with it on his own, and he wondered if I wanted him to help. Now, I am a little dragon of a lady who is very ferocious about protecting her own hoard. I grew up with a very invasive mother who would snoop through everything, and even threw out some of my things while I was at school. I had, and honestly still, have a system of keeping my door closed. Now that I'm an adult, I like to keep it locked and protect all of my memorabilia. I have a millimeter thick of graphite, like from a mechanical pencil, that would tell me if someone opened my door. I would place it around a certain area of the hinge. Either it makes a mark, or it snaps. That's a trick that I learned from dealing with my mother, but I declined. That is Dragon Lady territory only. So I met, and I got on good terms with Caterpillar. Now enters the Worm, the full-on Neckbeard. Now Worm was someone I seen in passing. He was a friend with Caterpillar, since they would play Smash Brothers or D&D in the upper lounge floor of the university cafeteria hall. He was without a doubt a full-fledged, obnoxious, tone-deaf Neckbeard. He wasn't as husky as Caterpillar, and not as tall, but they were commonly mistaken as brothers. He didn't wear a fedora, but he always had a faux leather trench coat that was one size too small, and he would wear New Balance shoes with off-white socks. I don't mean off-white as the brand, I mean they were dirty. He would wear cargo pants and the same few horror t-shirts that were pilling. I was on good terms with Caterpillar, and as I said before, he never made me feel uncomfortable. So I didn't mind being seen with him around campus. The first time I met Worm, I think he assumed that me and Caterpillar were a thing. I could practically feel him scoping me out, sizing me up with misplaced envy. Even after Caterpillar had informed him that we were just roommates, I tried to keep my eyes ahead while Caterpillar and his other friends were playing their match. But he kept trying to get close to me. I remember vividly, just because of the way he smelled, kind of like a wet dog, but human. And kind of fishy, because he always ate sushi from the downstairs cafeteria, apart from being a weeb. And I know that Worm never washed his freaking ill-sauced fingers. So, you are a sophomore? Exchange student, madame?
Yeah, I'm a sophomore, but I'm not an exchange student.
My college was, and still is, international heavy, so I really didn't see what he was getting at. But I'm ambiguous facially. I've been mistaken as Asian or Latino, but I'm actually black. Do you like video games? Or anime? I told him.
I do in fact like video games. Animal Crossing, Terraria, Kingdom Hearts, and Kirby are a few.
Bah, those are far too casual. They're not real video games. I play manly, deep, intellectual games like Dark Soul, Alan Wake, Resident Evil, and Darkwood, which are some pretty interesting games, but the way that he insulted my preferences and tried to play himself up was just really irritating. But I awkwardly laughed. I didn't want to be rude in front of all of Caterpillar's friends. We all have that one annoying associate, right? Eventually, he nudged the conversation into asking, "Do you have any friends who are into the same stuff?" Then he finally shoved, "Do you have a boyfriend?" And me, being my stupid spaz of a self, answered,
No?
and that I wasn't interested in having one at the time, since I wanted to stay focused on building my art portfolio. The hunt was on. Worm has set his sights on the most easily reached, succulent, little green leaf on the barren gamer tree. I wish I could have seen it in his slimy little smirk, but hindsight is 20/20. Maybe I could have put my guard up earlier. If Caterpillar wasn't going to make any moves, then he was going to try his hardest to earn my attention. And try really uncomfortably hard, he did. It even weirded Caterpillar out a little bit. I assumed that Worm would probably ask his best buddy old pal if I would come over to their Smash or D&D meetups, or if I would be coming to study groups. Even though Worm and Caterpillar and I were completely different artists. They did game design. I was into painting.
He's asking if you wanted to come up and meet again. He has something for you. I don't know.
He had his cell phone up to his ear, and his eyes were large and exasperated. You know the look that people give you when they're over it, or trying to see if you can tell that they're over it? Well, he was. Well, Worm did that Neckbeard thing, where he would buy me really unnecessary gifts. He bought me a plush Isabel once, and a bell bag full of chocolate coins. That's the one gift I remember the most, because it was hard not to turn that down. I accepted it. I know, and he took that as a free pass to ask for my number, so that I don't have to bother Caterpillar anymore when I have stuff for you. Can I have your phone number, Madam Plush? That was the innuendos in his nickname that he gave me. Now, I know I shouldn't have taken the plush or the chocolate, but I really did feel like it would have been rude to just not accept the nice stuff from him. If all he was trying to do was to keep in contact with me, then I felt like it would have been okay. I was dumb, and also very wrong. That was the first check and save point for him. Worm was crawling further along the branch, trying to take a bite out of me. He texted me all the time. I could feel my phone vibrating in my purse in the middle of art history lectures. He texted me late at night, things he thought that I would find interesting on one of his shopaholic binges. It was annoying. I thought the texts were normalish at this point. He would send me photos of plushies, stickers, or cute ball-jointed doll pets, since my new nerd man friend group knew that I hoarded them. Those were fine to send me. It was whatever. But there was one night that he actually sent me a screenshot of something from a different website. He asked me in a text, "So, what's your opinion on some of this kitty-themed outfit?" I'm really sure that it was lingerie. This dude was actually asking me, in his own weird way, if I was interested in lingerie being bought for me. I'm not gonna lie, it was actually very cute. But there was no way in hell that I was gonna accept this from someone I barely knew, who was really creeping me out. I told him that.
Oh, it's really not for me. You don't have to buy me anything. Keep your money for final supplies, dude.
He wasn't getting the hint, and I do not want to be enticed with lingerie. He kept sending me different styles, asking me if this or that was cute, or if I was a more sophisticated madam that preferred less silly designs. He even told me about things that he thought that I would look good in. I replied,
I'm good with nothing, seriously. This is a little weird.
Then he gave me a, "Oh, okay, sorry," but that only stopped him for a short while. It only gradually escalated from there. Over summer break, he started spending time at Caterpillar's place, thus meaning he was spending time at my place. It almost made me consider moving out. To put this into context, I am an individual who likes to play video games in my own way. I'm mildly autistic, and I find that I enjoy many of the games in a way that some hardcore fans might rip on me for. Like, for example, I prefer to collect Pokemon rather than caring about stats and movesets. I like to explore landscapes in Skyrim rather than focus on the main quest. I'm a minimal builder in Minecraft, and etc. I use video games as an escape from my own mind, rather than something competitive. But in the last few years of playing in my own little fantastical, whimsical way, I've drawn the attention of a Neckbeard that just would not quit hounding me, demanding to know why I didn't play properly. The term properly being his way of playing, which is all about coming out on top of the gaming community. I met him in college through a friend, and as usual, in these stories he seemed like a cool guy. But since lockdown, he became a real pain in my ass when it comes to telling him I'm not interested in competition. I'm gonna call him Fandombeard. Now, Fandombeard isn't your typical type of neckbeard. He's scrawny, he wears glasses, and he looks more like a geek than the stereotypical neckbeard. Kinda like the ones that would hang out with neckbeards. He had a neckbeard, however. He had typically greasy hair, had no Howling Wolf t-shirt or fedora. Sorry about that. By the time this story took place, I've known him for a little under a year, and I've made my first mistake already. I have little trinkets that's secured to my bag. As I like to stand out by myself while I'm out, I have a large Batman rucksack. I wear it because it's light, and I, despite being of a large physique, am ashamed to admit that I'm not as strong as I look. On this bag, I have one of those little Funko Pop keychains of Jared Leto's Joker. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of that Joker, but that keyring was from my dad. I rarely saw him, and I still rarely see him because he lives on the other side of the country. So you can imagine my shock when Fandombeard rather rudely confronted me about it.
Ew, you really like that character?
Not really.
Then what's that?
After explaining that it was a gift from my dad, he said something that nearly made me want to snap at him.
You think that having a retro Batman bag, that he might have gotten you something a little more cool rather than that?
Now, I'm a grateful child. My dad had not had that much money that year, yet he still shelled out money to help me embrace my newfound geekness. So to hear someone slandering me for keeping a memento on my bag that was from my father, it was infuriating. Then came mistake number 2. Always carry around my 2DS and the case. It's therapeutic to switch on the game and to get lost in fantasy while I'm on my lunch break. I have a Pikachu case, which automatically caught his attention.
You play Pokemon?
I'm still a little annoyed. Yeah, trying to fill my Pokédex.
Collecting? Pfft, I battle. I'm one of the best.
Oh, good for you. I proceed to play. Well, when I say play, I mean mess about with the Poke Refresh, as I mainly like to use the Pokemon as a type of virtual pet, which made them stronger in battle slightly. I didn't care about stats. I just wanted to look at the cute little creatures. It defeats the purpose, I know, but hey, that's my choice. I glanced up, and Fandombeard got up and walked behind me. He was peering over my shoulder.
Poke Refresh? Where's the battles?
I explained to Fandombeard that I like to tame the little pocket monsters just for fun. Then he started asking about stats. I'll be honest, I really don't care about stats. I pick a creature, and if it wins, it wins. If it loses, it loses. I just like the look of it, and to play with all those cute little things that I find, as my mind is stimulated by things that I find cute and interesting, hence collecting and taming. He starts to boast about some stats and some other jargon that I don't understand, before saying that he could whip my butt in battle, to which I just shrugged.
My fire types could torch your ass. What do you got, like a Pedalo or something?
I looked at my team. I'm a big fan of the Ghost, Dark, or Psychic, mainly because of the creepy and cool entries that comes with them. I shrugged slightly, not really caring about what is now becoming a competitive, one-sided argument. I just left him to vent, getting up and rolling my eyes, as I went off to find a quiet spot away from him. Might not be that much of an interesting story, but it's my Neckbeard story nonetheless. A word to the wise, if someone enjoys something, just let them enjoy it. If they want your opinion, then they'll ask for it. Thank you very much for joining me for this edition of the Neckbeard Experience. I'm doing a crap load of recording right now, trying to get a lot of stuff done, and probably at least 3 weeks ahead, so that I can probably put in some extra stuff throughout the week. I want to make sure to get ahead. I want to give a special thanks to my patrons. Your help is greatly appreciated. If you want to become a patron, for just $1 a month, you can get downloadable MP3s, you can get advance access to the videos, ad-free, or you can become a member of YouTube. Thank you all very much, and until next time, this is Dallas, signing off.